Shin Godzilla is the most terrifying Godzilla I have ever seen. I've loved Godzilla since as far back as I can remember. The first one I saw was the American one that came out back in like 1998. And it was cool back then. If you rewatch this movie now, it's got some issues.
That's a lot of fish.
But then way later in 2014, we got my favorite Godzilla movie to date. The shots and the sound design in this film were incredible. And for the first time, Godzilla felt like a terrifying and unstoppable threat. I haven't seen -1, but I have been meaning to for the longest time, and I can imagine it'll take the top spot when I finally watch it. Like I said before though, after seeing Godzilla 2014, I didn't think Godzilla could get any scarier, but then I saw Shin Godzilla. It was the first entry to the franchise in Japan after 12 years, and because of that, the movie was highly anticipated. Long story short, it was amazing, and celebrated as a terrifying return to form in Japan. You see, Shin Godzilla is significantly different in its origin in this movie. It's an evolved creature changed by nuclear waste, and it has a multi-form body, meaning its body changes over the course of the film. This version has unique features like a segmented tail and a split lower jaw, along with the typical overwhelming destructive power of Godzilla. But the portrayal of Godzilla in this film is more tragic than any other incarnation, and it feels less like a primordial force and more like a tortured beast. This film also shows the incompetence of the Japanese government as they attempt to stop this creature. This Godzilla is unlike others in the fact that Shin isn't a mutated reptile, but an ancient sea creature exposed to radiation that constantly mutates and evolves in terrifying ways over the course of this film. This version evolves to overcome environmental pressures and adapt to threats for self-preservation, as its main goal is human extermination. This self-mutation is a unique and deliberate process where it evolves rapidly on an individual level, and not just across generations. Its DNA changes in this movie to develop new and defensive and offensive capabilities, such as developing lungs to breathe on land or back lasers to counter bombs dropped on it by the Japanese military. I want to talk about one scene in particular in this movie though, and there's a couple other sequences in this film that I find frightening and intriguing. During the first initial destruction, we see waves of water destroying the city, with Godzilla being the direct cause. And it's here that I first felt uncomfortable with this version. This is Godzilla's grotesque second form, and I find it just so horrifying and uncanny. The glazed over and expressionless eyes are awful to look at as it just drags itself through the city, unable to stand because it hasn't evolved to stand yet. This version of Godzilla has just now developed gills to breathe on land, and the creature is struggling to even survive. Years of evolution are happening all at once to this creature as it fights itself and unknowingly destroys everything in its path. It drags itself through the streets, constantly spewing blood from its gills as people panic all around it. This version of Shin has always stuck with me as being the first standout, terrifying moment in this movie. And at the end of this rampage, it develops arms in a painful evolution and finally becomes bipedal. Godzilla then disappears for a bit of the movie before he makes his return in a menacing appearance closer to what we're all used to. This version is terrifying for different reasons, unlike the last one that just resembled a panicking creature. This one returns with a look of focused anger, more cold and calculated. I love that this version resembles the 1960s Man in the Suit look, and it ups the ante with CG and more details to Godzilla's design. This version definitely feels angrier and darker, a complete contrast to what we saw before. This version stands 2 times taller than before, and its skin is now almost impenetrable. The American government flies planes in to dispatch the creature, and these blasts hurt Godzilla, but they unknowingly force the creature into a terrifying new evolution. In response to these attacks, Godzilla activates his atomic breath for the first time. This whole scene is just visually amazing and terrifying all at the same time. Godzilla shoots atomic beams from its mouth and back in a rage, destroying the bombers who wounded it and leaving the city completely devastated and enveloped in fire and ash. I've seen a lot of people talk about this scene, and I always thought Godzilla used his atomic breath on purpose, but following the logic of the movie, it seems Godzilla was simply purging the buildup radiation in its body. Its shaking and its back being hunched provide evidence to the fact that this is basically just throwing up for this Godzilla. After all this destruction, the horror has surpassed Japan now, and the realization has set in for every country that Godzilla can and will destroy them. This movie really makes you feel like there's truly no hope, and watching this, I genuinely thought we get an ending where humanity lost, but thankfully we don't get that. In a last-ditch attempt to destroy the creature before it evolves into something that they can't stop, the Japanese government drops a successful thermonuclear bomb on Godzilla, freezing him in place and finally putting an end to the once inevitable planetary apocalypse. There's one more thing though. In the midst of victory over this creature, there's a terrifying realization lurking on the surface. The final shot of the film shows the tail of Godzilla, and it's here where the movie leaves us with more questions than there were when we started the film. Here we see smaller creatures sprouting from the tip of Godzilla's tail, along with what seems to be a mouth and several rows of teeth. Luckily, Godzilla was stopped before any of this ever came to fruition, but the thought still lingers. What are these things, and what could Godzilla's next form look like? After watching this creature evolve so rapidly before our eyes, it's terrifying to imagine that this was its next move. These smaller humanoid creatures are the scariest thing I have seen in a long time. The fact that Godzilla could get to a point where it's making new creatures just to evolve and destroy humanity is horrifying. Just seeing these creatures frozen in time is a reminder to everyone who walks past this terrifying monument to just how close they were to total annihilation. We saw how poorly Japan reacted to Godzilla's destruction, and there's no way that we would ever been able to stop these creatures once they hit the ground. It's another kind of horror when you can imagine the world praying that these creatures are really dead, because if they aren't, it's all over. The strangest part for me is that these creatures weren't there when Godzilla was first frozen, so that implies that this new evolution process happened right after the bombs, and they were halted at the last possible second. Or this evolution is happening right now, slowly, steadily, day by day, and maybe one day they'll detach fully and finish what Godzilla intended. It's the most unsettling ending to a movie I've seen in a long time. The horror that things could have been so much worse if the government hadn't acted as fast is just chilling, and that's why I love it, and I love this movie. Shin Godzilla is a nightmare incarnate, and I never thought I'd see such an interesting take on it. I love the vision of this movie so much, and that's why I wanted to talk about it. It's an absolute must-watch for anyone who likes or loves Godzilla. He's never been more terrifying than he is here. The cosmic horror of all of this is what makes this version of Godzilla my #1 favorite iteration of the character. Nightmares aren't created, they're born, and in the case of this movie, that has never been more true. So watch it if you haven't, and if you do, I hope you enjoy.